How did you realize your unit's mascot was actually gathering intelligence? It started with a scruffy German shepherd that wandered into our forward operating base in Syria. Poor thing looked half-starved, covered in dust, probably abandoned when the local village got evacuated. Our platoon sergeant Dave took pity on him, started feeding the dog scraps from the mess hall. Within a week, everyone was calling him Lucky and treating him like he'd always been part of the unit. Lucky was incredibly smart, house-trained immediately, never barked during night operations, always seemed to know when helicopters were incoming before we heard them. Perfect military dog, really. He had this habit of lying down near our briefing area whenever we discussed missions. Command didn't mind, figured having a friendly face around was good for morale, plus Lucky never bothered anyone or got in the way. The dog became legendary. Guys from other units would visit just to meet him. Lucky would greet everyone with his tail wagging, like he was conducting his own little welcome ceremony. 3 months in, I started noticing weird patterns. Lucky always positioned himself in the exact same spot during briefings, right where he could hear everything clearly. Never moved, never got distracted, just lay there listening. Most dogs get bored during long meetings. They wander off, fall asleep, find something more interesting. Not Lucky. He stayed focused for hours, like he was actually paying attention to our tactical discussions. Then there was his bathroom schedule. Lucky never needed to go out during briefings, ever, no matter how long they lasted. But the second we finished discussing operations, he'd immediately head for the door. I mentioned this to my bunkmate Jake. He laughed it off, said I was being paranoid. Dogs are creatures of habit, nothing suspicious about routine behavior, but I couldn't shake the feeling something was off. Started watching Lucky more carefully during missions. He never got excited about patrols or supply runs, but whenever we planned raids or reconnaissance operations, his ears would perk up. The breakthrough came during a particularly sensitive briefing about hitting a high-value target. I was sitting where I could see Lucky's profile. That's when I noticed something that made my blood run cold. There was a tiny blinking light behind his left ear, so small you'd miss it unless you were looking at the right angle. Red dot flashing every few seconds. My heart started racing. I waited until the briefing ended, then followed Lucky outside, pretended to play with him while examining that area more closely. Hidden under his thick fur was a small device, about the size of a hearing aid battery. Professional-grade electronics, waterproof housing. This wasn't some amateur setup. I immediately reported to Captain Miller. He thought I was crazy until I showed him the device. His face went white when he realized what we were dealing with. Lucky wasn't a stray dog who wandered in. He was a trained intelligence asset. Someone had surgically implanted a recording device and released him near our base, knowing soldiers would adopt a friendly dog. We called in the bomb disposal team. They found not just the recording device, but a GPS tracker and a small transmitter. Lucky had been broadcasting our conversations for 3 months. The device was Russian-made. High-end surveillance equipment worth more than most soldiers make in a year. This was a sophisticated operation, not some random enemy experiment. Within hours, we had military intelligence teams swarming our base. They traced Lucky's signal to a receiver hidden 2 miles away, found evidence of a larger spy network operating in the region. Lucky himself was just a victim. The surgery had been performed professionally. No signs of abuse or mistreatment. Whoever did this actually cared about keeping the dog healthy and happy. We couldn't keep him after that. Too risky. Military intelligence took Lucky for a full medical evaluation and eventual adoption by a civilian family back in the States. The hardest part was explaining to the rest of the unit. These guys had bonded with Lucky, fed him, played with him, considered him family. Learning he'd been spying on them felt like betrayal. Dave took it the worst. Kept saying he should have known better, should have been more suspicious of a random dog showing up at exactly the right time. 6 months later, new security protocols were implemented across all forward bases. Mandatory electronic sweeps for any animals adopted by units. No exceptions. I got a commendation for discovering the surveillance operation. Military intelligence said Lucky's intelligence had compromised at least 4 missions before I caught him. Lucky was living with a retired Marine family in Colorado. They renamed him Buddy, and he's apparently great with their kids. Just a normal dog now, no longer carrying the weight of international espionage. The briefing room still feels empty without him though. Even knowing what he was, part of me misses that dog.